fundamental change in the world has been the increasingly important role played by the very large developing nations. China, but not just China, as you pointed out, India and Brazil and so on. And I think what that means is it's going to be, we're going to need new, innovative ways of operating. The U.S. can't continue to operate the way we've been operating. China can't operate the way they've been operating. We need new ways, and I think that if you can get, because say we've got some very fundamental problems. If you look at some of the economic issues globally, if you look at some of the national security issues, if you look at the environmental issues, and I think that if you've got the biggest developed nation and the biggest developing nation, the U.S. and China agreeing, all these challenges are easy to solve. And if our two nations disagree, they're almost impossible to solve. So I think how they work together is important. In terms of the infrastructure, so whether the U.S. welcomes it, I just go back to the financial crisis. I tell the story, as I tell it in my book, that after the financial crisis, there was a lot of discussion of what should be the leaders group that got together. And there are some people saying, listen, the problem was a problem of the West, right? U.S. and Europe. And there was a lot of sentiment for having it be, you know, a G8 group. And I was very supportive of the G20. The president, George Bush, was very wise. And he said, the key to having the G20 work will be to having China enthusiastically participate. So he said, Hank, why don't you make a call? I called Wang Qishan. He talked with Hu Jintao. We heard back within 24 hours. And we had a very successful G20. Now, that is now developed into an important global, part of the global infrastructure. And the global infrastructure, I talked about the U.S. infrastructure, regulatory infrastructure being outdated and outmoded, has nothing like the global one. Because, you know, you run a company, you know that if Fung doesn't change with the markets, Fung, you would go out of business. But let me tell you, that's not true about government. You know, you can have all these government entities and infrastructure, and the world changed, and now this needs to be adapted. And I think it is adapting, but I think it is a multipolar world. You can't get things done, and no country can do them unilaterally. And I think the key is U.S. working with China and working with others.
Yeah.